This is the center of weirdness for the entire planet. Still don't believe me? You will.
Hey, how you doing, Tom? My name is Don. I'm a mentor here at Animation Mentor teaching body mechanics. I want to congratulate you on winning the 11-second club for the month of October. And I just had a look at your shot, and I think it looks great. So a lot of stuff working with it. Nice acting overall. I like the setup. I like the little bit of a button at the end there. So I think there's a lot of stuff that's working very, very nicely in your animation. So what I wanted to do is just talk a little bit about, what I feel like is your strengths of the shot that's working nicely. And then we could talk a little bit about the acting, maybe some staging as well. I know you used a little bit of depth of field at the end there, so we can maybe just try to simplify that a little bit. And just some staging, some framing stuff that maybe we can do a little bit of tweaking to. And then we can talk a little bit about more technical stuff at the end, like timing and posing and like eye lines and things like that. But generally, it looks great. Let's have a peek at it together.
This is the center of weirdness for the entire planet. Still don't believe me? You will.
Nice.
This is the center.
So I like the movement that you established in the animation. So like sometimes when people animate a shot, they don't really think about having characters walk as they speak. They maybe just will have them standing like in one place, having a conversation. So you could have easily have done that, just kind of place in front of the refrigerator and just have them speak and you can open it up. But I like the traveling. It also helps to build a bit of tension, like they're walking towards something. You can kind of see it in the background, they're blurred out. So that was nice. I like the use of depth of field here with the character in the foreground blurred out. So that's a nice touch. Just kind of keep focus on this guy.
Center of weirdness for the entire planet. Still don't believe me?
Generally, I like his acting. He has a very sort of like mysterious feel to his facial expression.
It's the center of weirdness.
And his movements are a little bit more controlled. So it just feels like he's trying to build some sort of anticipation for her and what he's going to reveal.
For the entire planet.
Nice accent here. At the brows come up and kind of widening the eyes. So nice.
Airplane.
And then you go back to more of that mysterious kind of expression as he walks back toward the refrigerator, which is nice.
Still don't believe me?
I like how you staged the refrigerator door really close to the foreground. It's a bit hard to read just because it's like really blurred out and it's quite dark here, but I like that it's really close to the foreground so the viewer feels like the character is like coming toward him or toward her, whoever. And it's almost like we're seeing what and then she's going to see in a second, so we're kind of getting a sneak peek at it, a bit of anticipation.
Still don't believe me?
And I like a little bit of steam that comes out, which is nice.
Still don't believe.
Again, kind of building a bit of mystery, like what is inside the fridge. And I like her expression here, kind of surprised and maybe a little bit of shock.
You will.
That's a nice touch with the goggles. Kind of gives it, again, kind of you're pushing that sense of mystery, right? Like, why does he have to put goggles on? Because there's something back there that requires him to have some protective gear on his eyes. So that's a nice touch too. Just kind of builds the atmosphere.
You will.
And I like the little eye dart that you gave through there, like toward what she's looking at and back to him. Really quick little eye darts to kind of make her feel, she's sort of in shock in the moment, not kind of sure what to do.
You will.
The other thing I liked here was that how, I'm thinking it's intentional, but like how when he's about to grab her, it looks like she's pulling her arm away. It's almost like, I don't want to go with you because I don't know what the heck this is. So that's cool. That's a nice little touch too. So let's talk a little bit about the staging then, and see what we can tweak a little bit with the staging. I think this is a good setup here. Um,
This is the center.
I think if I were to maybe try to make it a little bit clearer in terms of like, again, we talked earlier about them walking toward this thing that he's going to open, right? The refrigerator. So if that's the focus of the scene, I would potentially shift it over a little bit, like shift the fridge over a little bit, and then just shift him over a slight bit to the side, just so that there's more focus on this thing, the fridge, as they're walking toward it. I think it just helps for clarity, right? There's a slight bit of overlap. I guess, you don't want it to be like super, like everything is very segmented in terms of spacing across your frame. But in terms of clarity, I think it's better just to have it sort of have negative space around this object. That way, when the camera's pushing in, your eye kind of focuses on that a little bit more. So that's probably what I would do there.
This is the center of weirdness for the entire scene.
He does his little step back right here. He kind of starts to get cut off on the left side of frame. So I would try to keep him as he steps back. You know, he's pivoting on his right foot there, but maybe just kind of have him lean a little bit forward, maybe, or something. Just sort of try to keep him a little bit more in frame and not have him cut off. Just try not to have, at the very least, don't have his head cut off, right? So his arm could be cut off a bit, but just try to keep him a bit more. And then the fridge might be a little bit further over here as well. It's okay that she overlaps it, but with him, because he's kind of the focus of the scene, I try to keep him a little bit more in clear. Like I said earlier, maybe this fridge needs to just be a little bit more in focus and have the handle really, really prominent so you can kind of see what that is. And maybe a little bit lighter so it's not so blending into the background. You don't really notice the fridge there until he opens it. The handle's off screen. I would probably have the handle, maybe if this isn't the wall or the side of the fridge, I would at least have the I would at least have the handle like kind of sticking out here. Sorry. The handle kind of sticking out here like that. And then maybe a little bit of the fridge here. Just so that it's a bit clearer again, just to know what he's going to grab and that we're reestablishing that they are by the fridge, right? So the use of depth of field here, I think is cool. I don't know if I would go as blurred because, it starts to feel a little bit too soft and kind of gloomy. And then you're losing clarity in terms of like, you can really see him here. So he's the one reaching forward. But just for the sake of just making it even clearer, the action, I probably wouldn't have as much depth of field or blur on him. He could be blurred a little bit because I think you're trying to focus on her reaction as he opens the fridge door, which makes sense. So I'd probably just have less blur on him, just enough that you pull focus to her. Right. So when he swings the fridge open, I like the steam coming out. That's cool. But what would be even cooler is if you had a light come out of this, like a really bright, could probably make a green light. I know this is a black and white type of scene, but like a green light just to kind of give it a bit more of that sort of alien feel, a bit more mystery, a bit more of a pop. So you can just have like some green light kind of reflecting on these surfaces here on the edge of the inside of the fridge, and then on her, some rim light on her, and obviously on him too. I think that would just help to sell, again, the kind of the creepy aspect of it, the alien sort of aspect to it, and that would help to reinforce her reaction of her kind of being shocked at what she sees or what she thinks she sees. Then instead of him going back and then leaning toward her, I think what my instinct is to kind of keep him more like here. And he could be like looking maybe at what it is. So he's looking at what's inside there. She's looking at it. She's shocked, but he's not. Like he knows kind of what's back there, and he wants to, I don't know, scare her, or he wants to reveal that to her later. So he's kind of being a little bit sneaky. But having that contrast, though, they're both looking at the same thing. His reaction is completely different than hers. That contrast is kind of cool. Then leave the leaning back for this part when he puts the goggles on. So he leans back, then he puts the goggles on, right? Then he looks at her, and he's like,
You will.
"You will." So he puts the goggles on, then he kind of looks at her with that sort of creepy expression, "You will." And then with the "you will," I don't know if I would have the whole body move like that, like "you will." I think that's too much movement. I think it should be more subtle. Just kind of just turns his head, and mostly with the face, just like "you will," like the brows and the mouth to kind of have a little bit of squash and stretch. Just keep it more in the face for that moment. Again, more mysterious. You don't have to have like a lot of bounce or roll overlapping action in the body. Just keep it a bit more contained. I'm not sure about the arm poses either. I might just do something a little different because his arms are kind of out like this. Maybe "you will." I don't know, like maybe the arms are just like, not to the hips, but just maybe more to the side. More of a confident kind of pose, potentially, you know, like he's in control, or he's in control of the situation. She's not. So just giving him more of that sort of feel in his posing and his acting. But I like the brow pose. That's cool. And then when he goes to grab her, the only problem with the staging here is that he's like in front of her the whole time. And I know it's a bit hard, but I have a suggestion for that. And then when he's like pulling her in, her face is right behind him, so you're not really seeing her expression. It'd be cool to actually see her like with the really scared open mouth expression as she's being pulled in. So what I would suggest you do, and I kind of noted it a little earlier how she's kind of pulling her arm back. What if, as he's going to grab her like this, she kind of leans back like this, and then maybe she brings her arm up. Like she's kind of, yeah, she doesn't want to go, right? She kind of leans back. Maybe she shifts her weight a bit too. Whoops. Maybe she shifts her weight a little bit over to that her, right leg. So as he's going to grab her. And then by the time he grabs her, like she's maybe here, her head's maybe here. That grab is a bit hard to read too, because again, his body's overlapping it. Maybe you don't have him laying as far over as well, maybe, potentially. Maybe just kind of have his body over here and his arm kind of stretches out. You get a little bit of negative space in between where she is. This is her arm. And where he is. So there's a little bit of negative space in here to help to make that read. And also, then because she leans back, sorry, wrong color. When she leans back, you can see her expression as he grabs her. Then when he starts to run forward, right, he's running forward, he's pulling her arm. Maybe she comes out to here. So her arm is getting pulled. So she kind of like stumbles to the side here. And he's grabbing her arm here. This is her being pulled, right? So that's his right arm. And that way you can kind of still read her expression. You read his expression. And as he continues to pull her, so his head's here, she's over here being pulled back, right? And then the last thing you would see before you cut is her expression as it kind of comes toward camera, like her scared expression as she comes toward camera, and then she exits frame. Okay? I think that would work better generally, just to make it the action read better and the acting read better as well. So technical stuff.
This is the center of weirdness for the entire slate.
I feel like with his acting, you could add a little bit more texture to it. So right now, the poses are very sort of maybe a little bit too simple, and maybe trying to break up some elements, like break up the arms, add some movement to the fingers, like little creepy kind of wiggling with the fingers. When he leans forward, maybe just breaking the joint at the neck a bit more, having a little bit more drag and follow through on his head. Well, his head, where it joins the neck, I mean. offsetting the arms a bit more, one from another. Again, like I said earlier, just adding a bit more movement to the arms with the fingers, like some wiggling of the fingers, or breaking the joints at the wrists a bit more, just kind of loosening them up and also adding a bit more texture to his movements so they're not you can also maybe lead with the elbow, like as the arm comes forward. You can see, I'm not gonna do this. As the arm comes forward, instead of the arm kind of all coming forward like this, you can maybe lead with the elbow and then the forearm comes forward. So there's a little bit of elbow joint and then hand instead of the arm just kind of all coming at the same time. Just a little bit, just to get a little bit of lead and follow in the arms. You can work on the shoulders too. So maybe as he comes forward with his arms, his shoulders come up, and then as the arms settle, the shoulders come down, right? So you can have a little roll on the shoulders.
This is the center of.
You can really push the squash and stretch in the face too. I think this pose, his face opens up a little bit, but before that, when he goes into this pose, you have his head going down and his arms coming up. I like that sort of compression. You can also compress his face a little bit and maybe have his head come down on his neck a little bit too. So like this, get a little bit of squash on his face, maybe lower his brows a bit more, maybe his eyes get a bit more narrow, right? Just a bit more squash. And then when it comes forward, his shoulders can drop, his head comes up. Then you can really kind of add a little bit of stretch on his face, just a bit. Maybe his brows come up a little bit higher. Maybe his eyes are just a little bit wider. Maybe his mouth comes down a bit more. So a little bit of stretch. Right. You got the squash on his face and then a bit of stretch. Right. Then it settles back here. So it's kind of like settles out of that pose. His face kind of goes back to normal.
It's the center of.
And then here when he leans back, the same thing I would say is like break those joints, like have a bit more drag on his, maybe a little bit on his chest, on his head as he comes back. So it's not like his body's moving all as one unit, but you can kind of break those joints, chest and head, relative to his torso rotating backward. Offset the arms, have them kind of pull back a little bit later than the body and offset them from one another. Add some drag to the wrist. Work on the fingers, give the fingers a bit of movement. Just some subtle, maybe like a little bit of roll in the fingers as you bring them. Again, just kind of make it more mysterious, like a magician, right? How magicians kind of use their fingers to kind of do these kind of very flourishy types of moves. I think that would work.
For the
I feel like this move could be faster. So you can go into this crossed arm pose a bit tighter, like a tighter ease, and then kind of like have a little bit of a slower ease out just at the beginning, and then just have him accelerate into his arms separating, just to get a bit more contrast in the timing. So I felt like the timing of his acting is kind of a little bit on the even side from beat to beat to beat. So try to break it up a little bit. Go into this and then faster through this move, just kind of a faster movement. And I think you could probably have a little bit of an arc with his head. So if you look at me, when he brings his arms down, you can have his head arc down and up. Tire, right? Instead of his head just kind of coming forward like this, you can have it come down, arc down and up. Because his shoulders are dropping as his arms come down. You can have his head come up at the end. And you can do the same thing with the squash stretch on the face. So, like here, you can see how his brows and his mouth are kind of coming in a bit. So you can also add a bit of more compression here on his head. Right up right here. Maybe a little bit more stretch on his head. Maybe the brows come a little higher, wider eyes, maybe a bigger mouth. Then it goes back to normal, right?
Slade.
I like the arms here. I like the asymmetry in the pose of the arms. Maybe offset the timing of the arms. They don't kind of come up. I like the pose, the asymmetry of the pose. Maybe the timing needs to be more asymmetrical as well. I like the hookup of the animation there. Nice. So with her, right? Her pose. I kind of like this pose. It has sort of that, like, she's afraid, not sure. As an alt, I'm wondering if maybe you could do. I like the shoulders up though. I like that. But maybe as an alt, you could have her like grab her. Maybe keep this hand where it is, like kind of sticking up. But maybe the other hand is kind of wrapped around her arm like this. So it's like this instead of like it looked kind of like right now it's kind of crossed arm pose, which to me is more like um, like a little bit of not defiance, but just a bit more serious type of move. But that's not really what you want to go for here with her emotion. So maybe it's more like she's cupping her arms, so it's kind of comforting herself, which because she feels a bit scared. So you could try that as a bit of an alt. But I do like how the shoulders come up. You can even have her head come down a little bit too. So she's like her chin is down a bit, her shoulders are up. She's kind of like hugging herself because she's a little afraid, right? His pose, his arm well, I mean, we talked about maybe keeping him here anyways. Keeping him more like having him go back. But if you still wanted to do this pose, I feel like the cross arm pose, it's the elbows and the arms are too high up. So I would drop the elbows a bit. So they're a bit more, you don't want them too low because it's gonna look kind of maybe too casual, but it feels like they're a little, like he's kind of like a genie kind of doing that type of pose. Also like his body posture, I think it should be more like his chest should be out, maybe his back is arched a bit, maybe his head's tilted up a little bit. Again, he has the upper hand in this scene, like he knows something that she doesn't know and he's trying to like scare her or whatever, but he's in control. So you just have to give him that more confident kind of body language. And then here, like, what'll be cool, so he puts on the goggles, right? You have a little bit of an adjustment here, but let's make it an actual adjustment. So when he puts it on, have it go on a little bit askew. Like have it go on like a slight tilt to it. Maybe the strap is a little bit low or something. And then maybe then have him actually adjust it. Like, so it's a little bit askew, but have him actually right it so that there's purpose to him grabbing the goggles. Right now he just kind of grabs them, but they're already straight on his face. So just have him kind of adjust it.
You will.
Cool. And I talked about earlier about maybe having her kind of lurch back as he goes to grab. I like how you have a nice like an ease into the anticipation to kind of really sell his arm. The only thing is we're missing that arm in anticipation. We see the body. I like the line of action here, but we're missing that arm. So you really want to try to silhouette that arm as much as you can. Bring that arm up. Really show the hand going up. Because you really want to see what's about to happen, right? And then even here, you really want to try to get that arm and that hand. So the grab, once he grabs, right, it will be a lot clearer what's happening. And then this swing, right, the swing can do a little bit of a circle. So he grabs her arm, and then he pulls that arm back, and then she's kind of getting, kind of stumbling. So as I was saying, just kind of like having that arm grab her and then start to swing. And then as he passes by her, she sort of stumbles over to the right. And then he's pulling her, so she's over here. And that way, that path of action, that line of action of his arm swinging down, feels like it continues, right? It continues through. Then he's grabbing her arm, he's kind of swinging it over to the right. She sort of stumbles over to the right as well as she's being pulled. This is her arm. Sorry for the rough drawing. And then she should be over here, being pulled. And like I said earlier, just kind of keep her on this side as she's being pulled. And then the last thing we see is her screaming face before we exit the scene, right? I think that'd be a nice touch. That's the last thing that we see is her reaction as she gets pulled into this abyss. Maybe the only other thing I was going to say about his run, it says it's feeling a little spongy. It's feeling a little bit kind of underwater type feel. So just try to get the spacing or the eases at the top of the arc when he's going to his highest point. Just make those a bit tighter, and maybe just have a little bit more acceleration on the way down, just to get a bit more contrast. Make it feel like it has a stronger sense of weight. Maybe the only other thing I was gonna say, like in terms of acting, and because of the staging that you have right now, it might not read that well, but it would be cool though if as he grabs her, that it feels like she's resisting, like so she's kind of like leaning back and her arm is straight. So it just feels like she's trying to like keep her her feet from traveling, like she's trying to resist being pulled forward. And then there's a certain point probably by here where she can't really lean back anymore, and she starts to lean forward as she's pulling her, and then she's just where she is here, like she's closer to camera, her head's closer to camera, her body's sort of dragging behind. But maybe initially when he's pulling her, maybe through this section and maybe up to here, she's more sort of leaning back a bit more, just a little bit more, to get that feeling. Maybe her head's actually tilted back a bit as well, just to get that feeling of her resisting. Then she can't anymore because he's pulling her so hard. Right, Tom? Otherwise, it's really, really great. Again, congratulations on winning. And I hope those tips are useful. And we'll talk to you soon.